How Robert Stephenson Became Wealthy, the untold story behind his success. What do you get when you mix coal dust, genius, and a dash of Victorian drama? A boy born in the shadow of soot who grew up to bend iron, defy gravity, and make the world move faster than ever before. This is not just the story of Robert Stephenson, the man who built the rocket, bridged the impossible, and tunneled through England's muddy soul. This is a tale of ambition so fierce it melted steel, of love lost to time, and of a legacy buried beside Newton and Watt. How did a colliery boy from Northumberland rise to become the architect of the modern world? Why did Queen Victoria ride across his bridge? And what secrets did that bridge hide beneath its iron skin? What drove him to dig through quicksand with 1,250 men and a prayer? And when rivals whispered that he was just riding his father's fame, how did he answer? And hey, before we dive into this epic journey, make sure to follow us, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the lives of the world's most intriguing titans. Trust us, you won't want to miss what's coming next. It was a crisp October morning in 1803 when Robert Stephenson emerged into the world in Willington Quay, Northumberland, a place so steeped in coal dust that even the pigeons coughed. His father, George Stephenson, was a colliery engine wright, a job that involved wrangling steam engines in coal mines like a mechanical cowboy. George was a man of paradoxes, illiterate until nearly 18, yet capable of building machines that made Oxford dons weep with envy. George's mind ticked like a well-oiled piston, relentless, rhythmic, and revolutionary. He taught himself to read by candlelight, studied mechanics between shifts, and eventually built his own locomotive, the Blücher, in 1814. But before all that, he was just a grieving young widower. Frances Henderson, Robert's mother, died in 1806, leaving George to raise their 3-year-old son alone. The bond forged in that crucible of loss would become the steel frame of a technological revolution. George, haunted by the limitations of his own youth, vowed that Robert would not suffer the same fate. He scraped together every shilling, sometimes literally from the coal dust, to send his son to school. Robert devoured knowledge like a furnace devours coal. Mathematics, mechanics, chemistry, he absorbed it all with the quiet intensity of a boy who knew his destiny was forged in iron. At 15, Robert was apprenticed to Nicholas Wood, a mining engineer and close friend of George. Wood was a mentor with a mind like a blueprint, precise, practical, and visionary. Under his guidance, Robert learned the art of engineering not from textbooks, but from the roar of engines and the grind of gears. By 17, Robert was off to the University of Edinburgh, a rare privilege for a working-class lad. There, he studied under Professor John Leslie, a man so brilliant he once froze water with air. Robert was quiet, methodical, and fiercely intelligent. He speaks little, one classmate noted, but when he does, it is with the weight of a man who has already built engines in his mind. In 1823, George and Robert founded Robert Stephenson & Co. in Newcastle, the world's first locomotive manufacturing company. It was a bold move, like opening a spaceship factory in the age of candles. Their goal? To build machines that could conquer distance, defy terrain, and make horses obsolete. Their crowning glory came in 1829 at the Rainhill Trials, a competition to determine the best locomotive for the Liverpool and Manchester Railway. The rocket was Robert's masterpiece, a multi-tubular boiler for efficient steam generation, a blast pipe to increase draft, and a top speed of 30 miles per hour. It was the Formula One of its day. Competitors sputtered and stalled. The rocket roared. It was as if the machine had a soul, wrote one awestruck observer. The rocket didn't just win, it redefined what railways could be. It was the moment steam became destiny. Robert wasn't content with locomotives. He turned his gaze to the rivers that mocked his rails and said, "I shall cross you with iron." He designed the high-level bridge in Newcastle, 1849, a 2-tiered marvel that carried trains above and carriages below. Then came the Royal Border Bridge in Berwick-upon-Tweed, 1850, a majestic viaduct of 28 arches that looked like a Roman aqueduct on steroids. But his pièce de résistance was the Britannia Bridge, 1850, spanning the Menai Strait in Wales. It was a beast, 2 massive iron tubes suspended over the sea, each weighing 1,500 tons. Critics scoffed. Iron floats in water, not air, one sneered. Robert, ever the tactician, built a scale model and tested it to destruction. He didn't just prove them wrong, he made them eat rivets. When the real bridge opened, Queen Victoria herself rode across it. A triumph of British ingenuity, she declared, possibly while sipping tea and marveling at the lack of drowning. In 1829, the same year rocket roared to glory, Robert married Frances Sanderson, the daughter of a wealthy London merchant. Their union was tender, filled with quiet evenings and shared dreams. But fate, ever the cruel conductor, had other plans. Frances died in 1842 after a long illness. They had no children. Robert never remarried. "She was the only light in my life not powered by steam," he confided to a friend. It was a rare glimpse into the heart of a man who spent his life building machines but lost the one person who made him feel human. By the late 1830s, Robert Stephenson was no longer just the son of George. He was the man with the golden compass, the engineer every railway magnate wanted. And so came his magnum opus, the London and Birmingham Railway, completed in 1838. It was Britain's first trunk line, a 112-mile artery meant to pump steam-powered lifeblood between the capital and the industrial Midlands. But oh, what a beast it was. The project was a logistical nightmare. Tunnels collapsed like soggy soufflés. Landowners, especially the aristocratic kind who thought trains were noisy insults to their fox hunts, protested with the fury of Shakespearean villains. One baronet even threatened to shoot any surveyor who dared step foot on his land. Robert, ever the diplomat, dodged bullets both literal and legal. And then came the Kilsby Tunnel. Kilsby, Northamptonshire. A sleepy village with a secret. Beneath its green fields lay a treacherous sea of quicksand. Robert, unaware of this subterranean menace, began digging a tunnel nearly 2,400 yards long. And then, disaster. Quicksand poured in like a biblical plague. Pumps failed. Workers fled. The site became a muddy hellscape. Robert didn't sleep for days. He brought in 1,250 men, 200 horses, and a small army of steam pumps. They dug, they drained, they cursed the gods of geology. "We are not merely building a railway," Robert wrote in a letter. "We are tunneling through the very soul of England." It was part lament, part prophecy. After months of backbreaking labor, the tunnel was completed. It stood as a monument to perseverance, and to the fact that even the best-laid tracks can sink in the mud. In 1847, Robert was elected Member of Parliament for Whitby. He entered the House of Commons not with a sword, but with a slide rule. His speeches were rare but razor-sharp. He opposed excessive government interference in industry. "Let the engines run free," he might as well have said. But after a string of deadly railway accidents, he supported safety regulations. "A man may build a bridge," he told Parliament, "but he must also build trust." It was a line that echoed through the chamber like a whistle in a tunnel. He was caught between two worlds, the roaring ambition of industrialists and the cautious hand of public safety. It was a balancing act worthy of a tightrope walker over the Thames. By the 1850s, Robert was a national hero. He was elected Fellow of the Royal Society in 1849, knighted as a Knight of the Order of Leopold by the King of the Belgians, and served as President of the Institution of Civil Engineers from 1855 to 1857. Yet he remained modest. "The engine does not boast of its boiler," he quipped when praised. He preferred the company of blueprints to banquets, and his idea of celebration was a well-laid girder. But not everyone was clapping. Rivals whispered that Robert's fame was inherited, not earned. "He rides on his father's coattails," they muttered in drawing rooms and editorials. Some accused him of overreaching, especially with his tubular bridges, which critics called iron coffins in the sky. The Britannia Bridge, his crowning achievement, came under fire, literally. In 1970, long after Robert's death, a fire damaged the bridge. Some engineers blamed the original design, claiming the iron tubes lacked flexibility. It was a posthumous slap to a man who had once tested those very tubes to destruction. But Robert, had he been alive, would have simply raised an eyebrow and said, "Even iron must bend to time." By 1859, Robert's health was failing. Years of relentless work, stress, and grief had worn him down. He died in London at the age of 55, his heart finally giving out like a boiler under too much pressure. His funeral was a national event. Thousands lined the streets. He was buried in Westminster Abbey, near Isaac Newton and James Watt, a pantheon of minds that moved the world. The boy from Willington Quay had joined the immortals. His cousin, George Robert Stephenson, carried on the family legacy, but none could match Robert's blend of vision and precision. He was the bridge between the age of steam and the age of steel. Robert Stephenson was not just a builder of engines and bridges, he was a builder of futures. He lived in the shadow of a great father and emerged as a titan in his own right. He made mistakes. Yes, he took risks that could have ruined him. But he never stopped pushing forward. He built more than machines. He built momentum. And though the rails he laid may rust and the bridges he built may burn, the world he helped create still moves to the rhythm of his vision. Progress, he once said, is not a straight line. It is a railway, curved, inclined, and full of tunnels. But it always moves forward. And so did he. Make sure to follow us, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the lives of the world's most intriguing titans. Trust us, you won't want to miss what's coming next.